Is this a great day, as the president claims, or is it a bloodstain on our nation's honor? There has to be some sort of a rational discussion to be had, so let's have it with my favorite Kentucky Republican. He's a congressman, a gentleman, and House Oversight Committee member. Thomas Massie is back. Welcome back.
Hi, Kennedy.
Hi.
I hope things go better for me and you than they did for you and Rand.
Okay, here's the first piece of advice.
Yes.
Don't be condescending. Don't roll your eyes. And don't be smug.
My eyes are fixed straight forward like lasers. There will be no rolling of eyes.
More lasers, more sharks. So my problem is not that I think we need to take a bunch of guns and start shooting people and send more troops to the Middle East. We don't need a surge. But as libertarians and those who are anti-interventionist, we should be concerned with protecting life. The Kurds have to retreat now, but the problem is they have nowhere to retreat to because we hosed them in a series of treaties starting in World War I. So what do you see as the most problematic aspect of all of this?
Well, let's start with what we agree on, okay?
Yes,
you and I both agree that we're involved in far too many conflicts around the world. I think we both agree that we should have never gone to Syria without a clear mission and a vote of Congress. Like it takes Congress to declare war or issue an AUMF. So we shouldn't have gone there in the first place. And we both agree that Syria is one of those places we want to get out of. I think reasonable people can disagree about the pace at which we should withdraw from Syria and what should remain after we're gone. But here's the reality. The Turkish army is like one of the biggest in NATO. And the asymmetry of force between the Turks and the Kurds is just enormous. It's like the United States is holding back the ocean there, okay? And when we leave, and we're going to have to leave at some point, there's going to be an equilibrium that is reached there. We can't stay there forever holding back this ocean, this force, this Turkish force from the Kurds. And let's be honest.
I agree with you there, and I just want to stop you briefly because a lot of people who are defending the president are saying to the Kurds, no, should have had a life raft. Oh, well. And I think that is incredibly cruel. My issue is not what is the United States' interest in Turkey. My issue is that we are, rather Syria. My issue is that we are appeasing Turkey because what they're doing is taking control of a safe zone, and they have deemed all Kurds terrorists, even the ones who have helped us, even the ones who have fought valiantly, and calling someone a terrorist is the new cancel culture, but with murder.
Well, we used, if you go back 4 or 5 years ago, you can find the New York Times and Washington Post articles where they're referring to them as terrorists, you know, and maybe it's not the reporters directly referring to the Kurds in Turkey as terrorists. But let's also be honest about something. That vacuum that we're arguing about, whether the Kurds should occupy or whether the Turks should occupy, that ISIS recently occupied, it was occupied by Assad, and we sought to destabilize his country. So that's another thing where I think where we screwed up.
I agree completely.
You know, I'm not saying it was a good dictator, if there is such a thing, but he did keep the peace in the area.
Teresa of Austro-Hungary, she was an enlightened despot. That was a good dictator, but that was a long time ago.
Enlightened despot. That's a great description. I don't know if he was enlightened even, but at least he kept the peace. So we've got to figure out some way out of this. And here's the thing: it's Congress's the obligation to declare war, and the Constitution is clear when it delineates these things that it's the commander-in-chief who wages war.
So you have another commander-in-chief who is screwing everything up, engaging in skirmishes in a part of the world where the friendship and the enemies and animosity are so strange that the Kurds are now appealing to Assad, whose father made it his life's work to round up and kill Kurds. This is so incredibly odd, and Syria, for all intents and purposes, isn't even a country anymore. So the people in the United States, especially those who love liberty, we should respect the fact The people who want their own place to live have the right to fight for that.
Right.
That's what the Kurds have been doing. Have they done it appropriately always? No, they have not. But, you know, we're doing in the Middle East what we did in Vietnam, which is a series of rationalizations and needless deaths, especially disproportionately with civilians. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, let's be clear. I support what the president is doing here, but this is why you also need treaties. This is the other thing that Obama skipped. If there's some sort of treaty there, the only official treaty that was, you know, confirmed by the Senate is the treaty, the NATO treaty. If there was going to be a new treaty, it should have come to Congress. That way, you know, the president changes every 8 years no matter what. But Congress, there is some continuity there. There are congressmen, I'm serving with congressmen that have been there 40+ years, okay? And so there is some continuity there. That's why you make treaties and you ratify these treaties. And
That's fine. Congress has to, and if this is one of the good things that comes from this presidency, and Democrats have to acknowledge this, it's that we might finally limit executive power. And Congress needs to re-sprout a pair and go back and take back that power and abide by the protocol that they have abdicated for so many administrations. I know you fight for that. I know you love the Constitution.
I've been fighting, yeah.
I appreciate that we do have areas of disagreement. I really do. And I think as libertarians, it's not always cut and dry, particularly with foreign policy. And I very much appreciate this conversation. Last word.
One quick thing. The president does have the constitutional authority to wage the war and move the troops where he wants within the war after it's been declared by Congress. I don't support putting more troops in Saudi Arabia. People have asked about that.
Yes,
but let's be clear, he's not putting them in bivouacs in the desert in the middle of a war zone. He's putting them on a permanent U.S. military base, which he has the authority to do.
I understand. We need to close some of those bases. And if he really wants to scale things back and bring people home, that is a great place to start. Congressman Thomas Massie, that's how you do it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Very good. Well, naturally,